arrived.
Come with me and you'll see Staunton Country Park. Welcome to my new series, Come With Me. And yes, you will hear my amazing singing at the beginning of every episode. In these episodes, you will literally come with me on random photo shoots. And I'll also teach you how I edit them when I get home. For this image, I wanted to focus on the light coming through the arches and the shape of the light on the ground. Starting with the light settings, I increased the exposure and contrast, lowered the highlights and shadows, then increased the whites coming through. Moving on to the colours, I increased orange's saturation and then decreased the blue saturation. To add some detail, I increased the textures value and clarity, as well as increasing the dehaze values. Then adding a dark vignette by reducing that value. Finally, I then cropped the image to bring focus to the arches. So now I'm going to go over the process of editing the swan image and show you all the values as I go through. So I started by lowering the exposure and increasing the contrast and lowering the highlights. I then increased the shadows as I wanted the background still to be darker to make the swan pop out. I then reduced the blacks and the whites in the image. Moving on to the colours, I increased the orange saturation and lowered the luminance. I lowered the green's hues and increased its saturation and luminance values. With the dark blue, I lowered the hue, raised the saturation and lowered the luminance. Changing these values all helped the main subject for me to stand out from its settings and background. I increased the values on the texture, clarity and dehaze. This for me is what gives the image the definition and sharpness that I was looking for. Finally, to add a bit of mood and framing, I lowered the vignette value to bring the focus to the centre. This is how I edited the moon. So I started again with my light settings, reducing the exposure, increased both the contrast and the highlights. I then reduced the shadows and black, increasing the whites. I decreased the vibrancy saturation values, then selected the blues being the only colour in this image, decreasing the lighter blue saturation and with the dark blue lowering the hue, saturation and luminance. I then increased the texture, clarity and dehaze values as again I think this is what makes it pop out the most. Finally, I reduced the vignette value to give a darker border.